Okay, you're on.
We're going to start on Chavav Amid Beis from the words My Havi Allah. If you see Taisvis the Rabbi Yehuda.
What page?
It's 26b. If you see the bottom Taisvis the Rabbi Yehuda, directly across from it says My Havi Allah. Do you have that over there?
Okay.
My Havi Allah. It's 4 lines up from the wide lines. What the Gemara is discussing here is the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar said that if a person consecrates his field, it's good. A person consecrates his field, and he doesn't redeem it. So by Yovel, it doesn't go to the Kayanim yet. First, someone needs to redeem the field, and then after that redemption takes place, by the following Yovel, it goes to the Kayanim. That's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. Someone needs to redeem it first before it goes to the Kayanim. The question was, what happens if the original owner comes after the Yovel and he redeems it? What happens then? Does it go to the Kayanim after that? Or does he still get it back? Because no one redeemed it. That was the question that we had on the top of the page. If you notice, on top of the page it says Yibayilahu. Yes, the question, that was that question. The question was, Bailam B'yovel Sheni Ka'achadami Eloi. Is that like someone else redeeming it or not? So come down to the answer, My Havi Allah. That's 4 lines from the bottom. What was the conclusion regarding this? So, Tashma, come and listen. Rabbi Lazar Reimer, it says Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar Reimer, Gola Bailam B'yovel Sheni. If the owners come after the Jubilee year, no one redeemed the field, not the owners, and not anyone else. So by the Jubilee year, by the Yovel, nothing happens according to Rabbi Lazar. After the Jubilee year, the original owner comes, and he redeems it. So Yoitzel Kayanim B'yovel. The following Yovel, it goes to Kayanim. The Kayanim get that property. Follow?
You mean 50 years later?
50 years later. Well, it doesn't have to be 50 years later. It could be 35 years later. But we're talking about the first Yovel came, no one redeemed it. It stays like in this limbo status of hektish. No one redeemed it from hektish. Then the owner goes and says, "That my field, I never redeemed it. I'm going to go redeem it," and he redeems it. So he gets it until Yovel. Redeems it until Yovel, and at Yovel it goes to the Kayanim. So he doesn't go into it as an original owner. He goes into it, he redeems it, and he gets it like a purchase field, which reverts back by the Yovel. And here, who does it revert back to? It goes to Kayanim.
So he becomes more like a renter.
Yeah. So Amali Ravina Ravashi. Ravina says to Ravashi. We're on the end of the Ravina and Ravashi, the end of the Amoraïc period. Says Afan Ha'anan Laitanan Hachi. We did Ha'anan, but us. We did not learn that. We learned Rabbi Lezer Aimer Eina Kayanim Nechnasal Secha Achi Galena Acher. We learned that the Kayanim don't get it until someone else redeems it. And here you're saying the Kayanim are getting it even when the owner redeems it. Amar Lei, Ravashi responds that Bailam B'yovel Sheni Ka'achadami. This is someone else redeeming it. Because the owner is not the owner anymore. Because he didn't redeem it before the first Jubilee year. It's not his. So someone else redeemed it. Who is that someone else? It's the original owner, but he's considered someone else. Because he lost that property. Ikadamri. There are those that say the same thing, but just slightly with one variation. If it gets redeemed by the second Jubilee year, it does not go to the Kayanim by Yovel. It's the opposite. Ravina says to Ravashi, oh, interesting. It doesn't go to the Kayanim if the owner redeems it. That's exactly what we learned in our Mishnah. You need someone else to redeem it, and not the original owner. Amalei, so Rav Ashi responds, you shouldn't just know that that's not a proof. Because imi masnisin, havamina bailam be able to kachadami. If you're going to tell me that that's what it says in the Mishnah, I would tell you that there's no proof in the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah could be referring to the owner himself. Even though it says it needs to be redeemed by someone else, I could tell you that the owner himself is considered someone else. Kamash Malan comes along, whoever's saying the statement, Brycer, that if the owner redeems it, it doesn't go back. It doesn't go to Kainim. So we have two versions of what Rebbe Lazar really holds if the owner redeems it. So we ask the question, comes along, the Gemara gives us an answer. We have an Ikadamri depending on the rules of how Ikadamris work. For us right now, we just have two answers, which means we're left with the question, unless we've established which way the Ikadamri goes. The question was, if no one redeems, if the owner or anyone else doesn't redeem it in the first Yovel, what happens in the second Yovel if the owner comes along and redeems it? Is it considered a redemption from someone else? Or is it considered, or is it not counted, that redemption? We need a real third party to redeem it. Okay, we have a new Mishnah. The Mishnah says like this. Very interesting story. Someone purchases a field from his father. From his own father. His father has a field, and he purchased it from his father. Now, this field would have been his inheritance if he would have waited, but that wasn't what he's doing. He purchased it from his father. Then his father passed away. So, then the child, how did he receive this field? As an inheritance or through purchase? Through purchase. Then he goes ahead and he consecrates the field. Okay, now there's a difference between a consecrated field that's an inheritance or a consecrated field that's purchased. A consecrated field that's an inheritance gets redeemed by a set amount. It's 50 sela per 50 years, which means each year is like a sela. It's really only 49 years, so it's a sela plus a 48th or whatever. It's a set amount of what the redemption is. That's if it's an inherited field. If it's a purchase field, then it gets redeemed by its value. There's another point, is that if no one redeems a consecrated field, so when Yovel comes, it goes to the Kayanim. If no one redeems a purchased field, someone purchases a field and then consecrates it, when Yovel comes, it goes back to the original owner that sold it, because even a purchaser of a field only purchases it for 50 years. So he can't consecrate it for more than what he owns it for. Okay, so there's two things here. So what's going to happen with this fellow? He purchased the field from his father. His father dies. He consecrates it. How does he redeem it? And what happens by Yovel? So the Mishnah says like this. That's an inherited field. The father died. So this field here has the two laws of a consecrated field. Let's say a little different. Let's say Hikdisha, he consecrates the field. The Achar Kach Meis Aviv. And then the father dies. So he consecrated it when it was purchased. So the Harehi Kistei Mikna, Reb Meir. Reb Meir holds that it's considered a purchased field, and when Yovel comes, it goes back to him, or to the inheritance, or whatever, and he has to redeem it by its value. don't see him redeeming it because it's going to revert back anyway, unless he wants to redeem it early on in the yovel. But at the end of the yovel, why should he redeem it? It's going to come back to him anyway by yovel. Or maybe he has brothers.
That's the complication that the Mishnah so far at least is ignoring.
Does it go back to the
He
brothers?
has 10 brothers. And
Right.
He doesn't want to deal with it. He wants to own it all himself.
Right.
So he bought it.
So it's going to go back to the inheritance. Right. Very interesting. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Aimrim, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon say, Harei Kistei Achuzah. This fellow that he consecrated the field before his father died, he consecrated an inherited field. Yeah, but it wasn't inherited, it was purchased. It says, Shenemar im mistei miknasi asher lo mistei achuzasi. They quote a pasuk. The pasuk says, if it's a purchased field that's not an inheritance, or not from an inheritance, so the fact that it has to add that in, a purchased field that's not from an inheritance, purchased field is not an inheritance. Might have to say both of those statements. A purchased field that is not from an inheritance. So Sadashenu Ruyali Istechus is coming to tell me that it needs to be a total purchase field and not a field that could become an inheritance. That's what that extra phrase is teaching us. Yatzuzazu, it's excluding this type of field. She really Istechus, if you just wait a little bit, it's going to be an inheritance field. This is considered an inheritance field. It has all those laws. Now the Mishnah says, "Today miknei niyitzel kainim biyovel." A purchase field, even if the purchaser consecrates it, he says, giving this as a gift to the temple, it doesn't go to the temple for more than yovel. And after yovel, it doesn't go to the kainim like that's what would happen if it would be an inherited field. Why? Sheina the makdash davar sheina shalai, because he can't consecrate it if it's not yours, and it was only his for a certain amount of time. Kayanim and Leviim, they can consecrate things anytime. Gemara is going to explain that that's not much of a chiddush. The chiddush is more v'gayalim la'ilam, but they can redeem it anytime, as opposed to someone else that can't really redeem it after the yovel. Bein lifnei yovel, bein lachar yovel, whether it's before the yovel or after the yovel, they can consecrate or redeem. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Tanur Rabbanan was taught in a brisa. Again, the Gemara likes to compare Mishnayos to Brises to clarify things that are vague in the Mishnah. Minayin lelekeach sada meyaviv. From where do we know that someone that purchases a field from his own father, v'hikdisha, he consecrates that field, v'achakach mesaviv, and then his father dies, the Brisa repeats, Minayin shtei lefanov shtei achuzah. From where do we know that it should be like an inherited field? Who holds that this is inheritance? That he purchased the field, and the father didn't die yet. It's considered an inheritance. This is the second opinion there, right? It's Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. This is considered an inheritance. Where do we know that it's an inheritance, even though he just purchased it and he consecrates it? Talmud Laimar, the pasuk says, "V'mistei miknasai, asher lo mistei achuzasai." If v'mestei miknasai, asher lo mistei achuzasai. If a person purchases, if he consecrates the field that he purchased, that's not an inheritance. Sadashein really mistei achuzah. Only thing that's considered a purchase field is a field that's not eligible to be an inheritance. It means from some other person who purchased it. Yatzuzush really mistei achuzah. But this is excluded because this is eligible to be an inheritance. If he would hang around, he would inherit this field. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. It's the second opinion of the Mishnah. First opinion of the Brisa. Rabbi Meir says. By the way, I should point out that all of these are students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon are ganging up here. And they're saying that a purchased field from a parent is considered an inheritance. And Reb Meir holds no. Reb Meir, he holds that a purchased field from a parent is only considered an inheritance after the parent passes away. So, however, Reb Meir, if someone purchases a field from his father, the father dies, and then he sanctifies, he consecrates it. How do you know that that field is an inheritance? If it's a purchased field, that's not from an inheritance. Sada, a field, that's not an inheritance. That this is an inheritance because the father died. The Gemara has a question here. The Gemara says, Lema, let us suggest that the machlekes between Reb Meir versus Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon are regarding the following discussion, a very significant discussion, that the Reb Meir savar kinyan peiros kekinyan aguf tami. Reb Meir holds that if someone owns the products, all the benefits of a property, but they don't own the actual property. Why? Because the actual property, if someone purchases a property, in 50 years it reverts back to the original owner, if you purchase a property. So what do you own? If you don't own it forever, you don't really own it. All you own is the usage of it. So the usage of it is called kinyan peiros. I own it, it's technically mine for all technical purposes, it's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. The only thing is that at a certain time it goes back to the original owner. It's like renting a house versus buying a house. This is the big machlekes. What's better, to rent or to buy? And everyone's got their opinion. So Reb Meir says, according to this, that kinyan peiros is kekinyan aguf. If you have full usage, you own it. It's as if you own it. The full usage is as if you own it. Okay, so let's think about it like this. The son purchased the field from the father. He then inherits the field. Does anything change from when he purchased it to when he inherits it? He had the full ownership before as well, because he had kinyan peiros. Kinyan peiros is like kinyan aguf. It's like he owned it anyway. So nothing really changes there. If that's the case, so then the pasuk that then says that if it's a field that's an inheritance, that a field that's not an inheritance, and if a person consecrates a field that's not an inheritance, that would only be telling me, since he had full ownership of it while the father was alive, so it's really a purchased field, this field, because he had full ownership of it even before the father passed away. The only thing that's switching, when the pasuk comes in and tells me that if it's not an inheritance, so then that would only be telling me the very last case, the very end. If the father died before he consecrated it, then that would be saying that, this field is an inheritance. And the pasuk is coming here and telling me a chiddush, that really I know this field is a purchased field because he really owned it the whole time. He had full ownership of it. So when the pasuk tells me that the pasuk is making an exclusion here, that if the field is not an inherited field, then it has a certain law, that exclusion would only be taking place after the father died and then he consecrated it. That over there, no, this field is an inheritance. However, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Sabri, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon hold, kinyan peiros lavke kinyan aguf dami. They hold that the person never really owned the field. He only had the kinyan peiros. This son only had the usage of it. So if the father dies, before he consecrates it. Is this an inherited field or a purchased field? There's no question that it's an inherited field. He never owned it before. He now owns it. This is a total inherited field. I don't need a pasuk to tell me that if he consecrates it, it's an inherited field. What's the pasuk coming to tell me? His ownership of it, his real ownership of it, only came after the father died. So it's a total inherited field. The pasuk has to be telling me a chiddush. The pasuk is telling me even before the father died, it's still it's still eligible to be an inherited field. So the machlekes over here is, if this field, the machlekes is in the case where the person purchased the field from his father, then he consecrates it, and then his father died. Is that considered a purchased field or an inherited field? So Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda hold that that's considered an inherited field, because after the father dies, it's anyways an inherited field. So the pasuk must be telling me a chiddush that even before he dies, it's considered eligible to be inherited, and it's considered inherited. According to Reb Meir, it's really considered a purchased field the whole time, because he purchased it totally. Nothing switches in his ownership from before the father dies to after the father. So therefore, the pasuk must be telling me after the father dies, it's considered an inherited field. But before the father dies, and he consecrates it then, it's a purchased field, according to Reb Meir. That's the suggestion that the Gemara gives. The Gemara doesn't like this suggestion because you're entering into a big machlekes over here. Kinyan Perska, Kinyan Aguftami. Doesn't want to get into this to say that this is a machlekes, Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon and Reb Meir. Amar Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak ba'alma. Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak says, really, Reb Shimon, Reb Yehuda, Kinyan Perska, Kinyan Aguftami. Really, they also hold Kinyan Perska, Kinyan Aguf. That means that it's really a purchased field. And then the pasuk maybe is only telling me the last case, where the father dies before it's consecrated. So it's v'hacha krashkach. No, it's not so, because Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda have a pasuk that teaches me an extra point. V'darshi, and they learn the pasuk the following: Lichtav rachmanim mistei miknasei. The pasuk only has to say if it's a purchase field. Asher lo mistei achuzasei. That's not. Asher lo yachuzasei. You have to drop the word stay. That's not an inheritance. Inami, or the pasuk could have said, Asher lo stei achuza. That's not an inherited field. My mistei achuzasei. What does it mean? My misdei, it's supposed to say. What does it mean from the field? So sadashen really stei achuza. We're talking about even a field that's eligible. Yatzazusha really stei achuza. So in other words, Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda actually learn an extra thing from the pasuk that tells this to me, and it has nothing to do with the machlekes of Kinyan Pers, Kinyan Aguf. Okay, that's Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak's response to that. Now the Gemara discusses the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah said that Koyanim and Leviyim can always consecrate and they can always redeem, whether it's before the Yovel or after the Yovel. Now, in order to understand this Gemara, you have to go back to the very first Mishnah of this parak. The Mishnah said, it's on Chof Daled. The Mishnah said, you can't consecrate Ein Makdishim Lefnei Yovel Pachas Mishtei Shanim, before the Yovel less than 2 years. And you can't redeem within the first year. And it says you don't count months. Okay. So I have that expression, Ein Makdishim Lefnei Yovel. You can't consecrate it if there's less than 2 years left. And you can't redeem it in the very first year. You have to wait 1 year before you redeem it. Our Mishnah says, Kayanim and Leviyim Makdishim L'Yolam, V'Goyalim L'Yolam. They can always consecrate and they can always redeem. Bishlei Magayal, and the Gemara says, we understand what it means that they can redeem Itzrich, that's necessary, Lafuke Midi Yisrael, the Leiparki Elad Yovel. A Yisrael can only redeem a consecrated field until Yovel. After Yovel, it goes to the Kayanim. But a Kayan and a Levi, if they take one of their fields, that they happen to have a field, they can redeem even after the Yovel. Kamashman, the Kayanim Levim Gailim Lailam, it's big chiddush. Yovel doesn't take the field out of their possession. by consecrating it, and Yovel comes, it still remains in their possession. Ela makdishin, ma'yer yakayinim leviyim. But when it comes to consecrating it, what does it mean? Kayanim and Leviyim can consecrate it forever. Afil Yisrael nami. Yisrael can also consecrate it whenever he wants. Maybe you want to say that it's in the year of Yovel itself. You're not supposed to consecrate. Like Kadesha. Shmuel, there was a Machlekes Rav and Shmuel before, where Shmuel held that if Yovel takes a field and brings it back to the owner, so if it's consecrated, if Yovel does that, if it's consecrated on the Yovel, if Yovel takes the field out, so when you consecrate it on the Yovel, it doesn't even work. If after it takes effect, it removes it, so on the Yovel itself, it doesn't work. So Kamash Mlan, the Kayin Elvim, Makdishim Liyolam. Here I have a Chiddush according to Shmuel, that you can consecrate a field even on Yovel. Elal Rav, but Rav said that it does work on Yovel. So my year Yakainim Elvim Mefil Yisrael Nami. What do you mean that they can always consecrate? Anyone can always consecrate. What did we say here in the Mishnah? In Makdishin Lefnei Yovel Pachas Mishneh Shana. Gemara explained that you don't benefit that it was really just an Eitz Tova not to consecrate it then, because when you redeem it you have to pay the full amount. But actually it does work. So now when we're saying that they're able to do it, that it works, we're asking, what do you mean? It always worked. So the Gemara explains like this: Ula taimech, according to you, bein lifnei yovel, bein la'achar yovel amali. What does it mean before the yovel and after the yovel? We're not talking about before or after. We were talking about on the yovel itself. Does it work? The Gemara says, "Ela I did the tanareish lifnei yovel la'achar yovel." Let's go back to the first Mishnah of the parak. First Mishnah of the parak said, "Don't consecrate before the yovel before the Yovel, at the beginning of the Yovel, in the first 2 years, and don't consecrate before the last, in the last year." So Tana Seifanami bein la'achar Yovel, bein lefnei Yovel. No, we're just lining it up symmetrical. We had a reason for saying bein lefnei Yovel, bein la'achar Yovel in the first Mishnah. That's why we're saying that here. But I did the Tana Reisha Makdishim v'Legoyim. Over there we said that you can't consecrate it or redeem. So Tana Nami Seifa Makdishim v'Legoyim. Here we say that you can consecrate and redeem, but don't be medayik anything. Our main point over here is the redemption. The makdishin was just to make the point symmetrical, like as if you're making a chart. So some of them it's applicable, but some of them it's not applicable. So we're setting it up in the chart. So we say makdishin and gayalim, bein lefnei yovel, achar yovel. Some of them are not applicable, but it lines up. The symmetry is there, so that's why you can't ask on each one, what do you do with that box? That doesn't fit. There's no chiddush in that. No. We were just lining it up. Let's do the new parak. Hamakdish esadeyu. Someone consecrates a field. B'shasheina yovel. No, yeah, it's supposed to be me. Nowadays, the yovel only works when the Jewish people live in the land of Israel. Jewish people aren't. If you don't have all the tribes in the land of Israel, then the Yovel doesn't work. So we don't have those laws. So let's say someone consecrates his field, and the Jewish people aren't in the land of Israel, there's no Yovel. So Aimrim Lai, in other words, it's not going to go to the Kayanim. So and there's another law that you don't redeem it with that amount of money. You have to redeem it based on its value. So it has a special law here. So it's supposed to be Aimrim Lai. They say to him, they say to the owner, Psach Atarishan. Open up. Well, how much would you like to redeem it for? In other words, what's its value to you? Why do they ask the owner first? Is the value? Because when the owner himself redeems, he has to add an extra fifth. So because this field was consecrated, and the money that from the redemption is going to go to the temple, so we want the owner to give the money because the temple will get an extra fifth. If someone else redeems, then he just redeems it for its value. He doesn't have to add the extra fifth. So we ask the owner to redeem first. There was a story. One person, he consecrated his field because the field was he was losing money on the field. It was bad. It cost more to upkeep it than the gain that he was getting. So he said, "Oh, I'm going to give it to the temple." It sounds too realistic, right? So, in certain communities, so people keep redoing their kitchen and their living room. Like every time they just redo it again and again. So sometimes like people they get these calls. They say, "Look, I have all these fancy cabinets, and would you want them? They're for I'm redoing my kitchen again. I have this old couch and this, and so there's a limit to like, what am I going to do with someone else's kitchen? Nice cabinet, another couch. They're just unloading this stuff. So okay. So Amrulai, they told this fellow, Psachatirishin, you redeem it first. Amar, he said, I'll pay 1 Yisr. Yisr is a small coin. It's about 6 or 8 prutas. It depends on